We are under 2 weeks away from the NBA draft, and the rumors are flying left and right. These past 24 hours have been by far the craziest throughout this draft process. Today, new reports of the Sixers not trading down, but maybe moving up. Could they actually snag the franchise cornerstone that nobody thought would be possible? Also, Sixers brought in a player for a workout. Could they actually prefer him over the player that we all thought was in the lead? And Kevin Durant is on the trade market right now, and his potential move could mess everything up. We will get into all of it and more, but welcome into Philly Take with RB. Do me a favor, turn on those notifications so you don't miss any of the content. Things are going crazy right now. I want to preface all of this by saying we are getting close to the draft. There's going to be a lot of smoke, right? So you have to really be careful on what you're reading and really think about it a little bit. But with that being said, I don't know where the Sixers stand right now because things are going wild. We're going to start it off with yesterday's reports and what came out and what led to today. So yesterday, Jake Fisher puts out a piece, and the main thing we got out of it was the Sixers met with VJ Edgecombe. They had him in for a workout and a dinner with the Sixers brass, including Daryl Morey and others. Also, Tyrese Maxey, a franchise cornerstone, wanted to fly in, and he was a part of the process. Ace Bailey originally had not had a meeting scheduled with the Sixers. There was an expectation he would. We then get a follow-up report after everybody's freaking out that Ace Bailey has now scheduled a private workout with Philadelphia. So this is very normal. This is very typical, right? Leading up to the draft, guys come in for private workouts. This is the stuff I'm really interested in. It does feel a little bit late in the process, but they're starting to get it going. These guys are very busy with the combine, with meetings, all that stuff leading up to the draft. So pretty much the Sixers are going to do their due diligence on certain players that they like. But VJ Edgecombe was the first initial prospect brought in. It was also reported that VJ has not met with any other teams yet, so the Sixers were his first team. Also, Jake Fisher reports that Washington, now a potential team interested in trading up to get VJ Edgecombe. They have the 6th pick and the 18th pick in the first round. So people are thinking that the Wizards could try to propose a trade to the Sixers where they give them 2 first-round picks to move back a little bit. What do you think about that? Also, Jake Fisher, if we go over to his piece, mentions yesterday that the Sixers are going to keep this pick or they're going to trade down a few slots. The prime candidate at number 3 appears to be Baylor freshman guard VJ Edgecombe, who sources say visited with the Sixers last week. There's an expectation that Philly will bring in Ace Bailey, as we said. Edgecombe is said to have impressed with his work ethic, personality, and interviews. He went to dinner with Daryl Morey and other Sixers higher-ups. Even Maxey was a part of it. And the Sixers are intrigued by what type of defensive complement Edgecombe could provide their all-star guard, sources say, in addition to his explosive upside on the offensive side of the ball. So, do the Sixers prefer VJ Edgecombe over Ace Bailey? I mean, I always thought this was a possibility. We've mentioned it multiple times. Although I liked the higher upside pick, Daryl Morey views this roster as ready to win now, ready to contend. Sure, there's a lot that can go wrong with it, but it does feel like VJ is more of the plug-and-play win-now piece, and that is probably the mentality that Daryl Morey is operating with if he does like VJ Edgecombe over Ace Bailey. Now, again, I even had a comment back and forth with Sam Vecine, who put out a lot of stuff today, which we'll get into, but he said, look, it's very normal for these guys to work out with all these teams, so we just have to be patient, let it play out. It is interesting, though, that Maxey's a part of this, Morey, etc. Okay, we got it, right? So interesting stuff going on there. However, we get another bomb today, and this completely changes everything. Sam Amico says that the Spurs drafting Dylan Harper is reportedly not a done deal. And then according to Michael Scotto of HoopsHype, the Sixers have engaged with the Spurs about potentially moving up to the 2nd pick. For now, the Sixers have zeroed in on 4 draft prospects with the 3rd pick, including a private workout last week with VJ Edgecombe and Ace Bailey visiting Philadelphia next week. So this throws a wrinkle into everything. We thought for the longest time 1 and 2 were clear-cut, Cooper Flagg and Dylan Harper, and there's no chance of getting them. However, I have been saying this for weeks now. It does not make any sense for the Spurs to draft Dylan Harper. They just traded a bundle of assets to get De'Aaron Fox. They have the reigning rookie of the year in Stephon Castle, and drafting Dylan Harper will throw a wrinkle into that mix. Now, I know at the top of the draft, it's always best player available. You figure it out later, but honestly, I don't know if they should figure it out later. They have the assets right now after getting lucky in the lottery again to go get a Kevin Durant, to get a Giannis Antetokounmpo, or to get a player that fits the mold better. I understand drafting the best available, and Dylan Harper has kind of separated himself as that number 2 guy, but they are trying to win while they still have guys on rookie contracts. Imagine Wemby and Fox and Castle and Giannis or KD. That could change up everything. But the Sixers are now inquiring about moving up to the number 2 pick to get Dylan Harper. So my question is, what would it take? What would it take for the Sixers to move up? People are throwing out Tyrese Maxey and Jared McCain. Let me tell you something. There is no way that is happening. If the Spurs wanted to get another guard, they would just simply draft Dylan Harper. So realistically, what would it take? The Sixers, keep in mind, are not going to have their first-round pick next year unless it is in the top 4, which it probably won't be. That means they're going to have their first in 27, and in 2028, their pick is going to go to Brooklyn. However, they have an unprotected Clippers pick in 2028. So could that be in the mix? I don't think so. Moving up one spot in the draft usually doesn't require that much, but since you're at the top of the draft, I think it would probably take the second-round pick at 35 as well as a first-round pick in 2030 to be able to move up and get Dylan Harper. Would you do that? I would. Dylan Harper has separated himself as one of the franchise cornerstones in this draft. Now, that's not to say he doesn't have flaws and concerns. People want to act like he's touchless, you know. Dylan Harper is a streaky shooter. Dylan Harper has had his struggles, but the thing about Harper is his game projects very well at the next level. You know, he's not the most explosive, the quickest guy, a lot of bursts, but he's so crafty. And you know what's funny? Dylan Harper's NBA comps are Cade Cunningham and James Harden. And he reminds me a lot of James Harden, a lefty who's very crafty. He plays at his own tempo, lets the game come to him. Very creative finisher, you know, can score against anybody, guards and bigs. And he just has a very deep bag of moves, especially under the rim, driving downhill. And I honestly think that as a 6'6" guard, Daryl Morey is looking at Dylan Harper saying, oh my gosh, I have the chance to land another potential James Harden. And Daryl Morey is infatuated with James Harden, and I think he might be infatuated with Dylan Harper. The question is he willing to give up whatever it takes to move up to number 2? Like I said, Dylan Harper is a pick-and-roll maestro. He has shown so much potential as a guy who can lead an offense. Dylan Harper can be a primary creator, whereas Maxey doesn't have to land that burden all the time. VJ is not really a ball handler, whereas Dylan Harper is. So if you have, you know, Maxey at the 2 and Dylan Harper at the 1, then you have Jared McCain, Quentin Grimes. These are things to figure out, of course, but I think Dylan Harper projects very well as a lead guard at the next level. They keep saying the draft starts at 3. It really does. The Sixers could shake everything up here. Also, we got another report from Sam Vecine, who I said I had the convo with earlier today, and he reports that the Sixers want to, quote, bridge the gap with players currently on the roster and add cost-controlled talent in the 2025 NBA draft. This makes perfect sense. Everything we've been talking about with the Thunder, the Pacers, right? You have to find that balance, that mix. You want to have guys that are young on rookie contracts. That way, when you have a team where 3 guys are taking up 94% of the cap, you can find gems that can actually contribute now and win, so you don't have to pay everybody at the same time. So this just tells me even more that the Sixers are confirmed staying in the top 10, the top 5, hopefully at number 3, or even up to number 2. We also had another report, once again, doubling down on the Pelicans' interest. They are trying to move up in the draft to get Ace Bailey, right? Joe Dumars back in the front office now. His first move, his first splash is trying to go up to get Ace Bailey. So I feel like we can expect a lot of movement on draft night. Another guy that could shake up this entire equation is Kevin Durant. We get a report yesterday from Shams that KD is now sorting through trade options with interested teams being Houston, San Antonio, Minnesota, Miami, and New York. Originally, I thought, okay, the Spurs are probably the best destination, and maybe KD wants to go there to play with Wemby, to play with Fox and Castle. But if he does go to San Antonio, that probably shakes up this entire equation. because I think that the number 2 pick would be involved in a trade for Kevin Durant. That means the Suns would get it, and they barely have any draft capital, and that would probably take the Sixers out of that, So I think that I don't want KD to go to the Spurs anymore. I think that's probably the best fit for him, but maybe Minnesota, New York can't even figure out how to interview a coach. They can't even interview anybody. They're getting denied by everyone. I think KD will get traded. I don't know if it'll be on draft night, but I do feel like it'll be very soon. I think that's going to be the one that kicks off this offseason. And if the Sixers move up to number 2 and get Dylan Harper, I would be satisfied with that. And honestly, I just think it makes a lot more sense from a fit perspective, having Dylan Harper play on the ball, and then Maxey can shift back to the 2. And I think that's really the only way that I would want to draft a guard high in this draft. You look at Harper's numbers, he averaged 19.4 points a game, 4.6 boards, 4 assists, 1.4 steals. Definitely has a lot of defensive potential. He's not perfect yet by any means, but if he can, again, improve that shooting consistency, his free throw percentage is okay. I think Dylan Harper projects out as an all-star guard. Don't believe everything you hear, but get excited because these next couple of weeks could change the franchise landscape. What do you want to do in terms of Dylan Harper? What do you want to do in terms of Ace Bailey, VJ Edgecombe? What should they do? Give me all your thoughts down below. As always, appreciate everybody for tapping in. Be sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one. Peace.